Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Punishment and Reward of Kali. Text 16. Rajno hi paramo dharmaha swadharma stanupalanam shasato nyanyata shastram anapadyutpataniha.
The supreme duty of the ruling king is to give all protection to law-abiding persons and to chastise those who stray from the ordinances of the scriptures in ordinary times, when there is no emergency.
Text 17. Dharma vacha etadva bandhavyayanam yuktam arthapayam vachaha yesham gunagane krishno dotyato bhagavan kritaha.
The personality of religion said, "These words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty. Captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas, even Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, performed duties as a messenger."
Text 18. Navayam klesha bijani yatasyo purusharshapaha purusham tam vijanimo vakya beta vimodhitaha.
O greatest among human beings, it is very difficult to ascertain the particular miscreant who has caused our sufferings, because we are bewildered by all the different opinions of theoretical philosophers.
Text 19. Kechit vikalpa vasana ahur atmanamatmanaha devam anye pare karma swabhavam apare prabhum.
Some of the philosophers who deny all sorts of duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible, and the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause.
Text 20. Apratarkyat anirdeshyat iti keshvapi nishchayaha atranurupam rajarshe vimrisha svamanishaya.
There are also some thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of distress by argumentation, nor know it by imagination, nor express it by words. A sage amongst kings, O sage amongst kings, judge for yourself by thinking over all this with your own intelligence.
Text 21. Sutta vacha evam dharmai pravartati sasamratvicha sattamaha samahitena manasa viketa paryachastakaptam.
Sutta Goswami said, O best among the Brahmanas, the emperor Parikshit, thus hearing the personality of religion speak, was fully satisfied, and without mistake or regret he gave his reply.
Text 22. Rajovacha dharmam pravishi dharmakna dharmosi vrisharupadrup yada dharma kritastanam sucha kasya pitat bhavet.
The king said, O you, who are in the form of a bull, you know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to the principles that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are no other than the personality of religion.
Text 23. Athava deva mayaya nunam katir agochara chetaso vachasaschapi bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Thus it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery.
Text 24. Tapashocham daya satyam iti pada krite kritaha adharmam shrestayo bhagnaha smaya sangamadeshtava.
In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your 4 legs were established by the 4 principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that 3 of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication.
Text 25. Itanim dharma padaste satyam nirvatayet yataha tam jikri satya dharmoyam anritena dhita kalihi.
You are now standing on one leg only, which is your truthfulness, and you are somehow or other hobbling along. But quarrel personified, Kali, flourishing by deceit, is also trying to destroy that leg.
Text 26. Iyam cha bhumir bhagavata nyasitoro parasati Srimad Pistat pata nyasai sarvata krita kautuka.
The burden of the earth was certainly diminished by the personality of Godhead and by others as well. When he was present as an incarnation, all good was performed because of his auspicious footprints.
Text 27. Shochata shrukala sattvi durbhagevo jita sati abramanya nipavyajaha shudra bhoksyanti mamiti.
Now she, the chaste one, being unfortunately forsaken by the personality of Godhead, laments her future with tears in her eyes, for now she is being ruled and enjoyed by lower class men who pose as rulers.
Text 28. Iti dharmam mahim chaiva sankayitva maharataha nishatam adate khatkam kalaye dharmahetave.
Maharaj Parikshit, who could fight 1,000 enemies single-handedly, thus pacified the personality of religion and the earth. Then he took up his sharp sword to kill the personality of Kali, who is the cause of all irreligion.
Text 29. Tam jikhamsum abhipretya vihaya nirvalanchanam tat pada mulam shirasa samakatpaya vihvalaha.
When the personality of Kali understood that the king was willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of a king and, under pressure of fear, completely surrendered to him, bowing his head.
Text 30. Patitam patayo vira kripaya dinavatsalaha sharanyo navadichyaklukya ahajaitam hasanniva.
Maharaj Pariksit, who was qualified to accept surrender and worthy of being sung in history, did not kill the poor surrendered and fallen Kali, but smiled compassionately, for he was kind to the poor.
Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, please forgive my mistakes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mataji, and thank you so much, Prabhuji. Just wanted to check, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. And can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I believe the verse today is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, verse 24. Is that right? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just read it from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, verse 24. Tapasocham daya satyam idi padaha krite kritaha adhamam shaish trayopagnaha smaya sangha madeshtava. Word for word translation. Tapa, austerity. Socham, cleanliness. Daya, mercy. Satyam, truthfulness. Iti, thus. Padaha, legs. Krite, in the age of Satya. Kritaha, established. Adharma, irreligiosity. Amshaye, by the parts. Trayaha, three combined. Magnaha, broken. Smaya, pride. Sangha, too much association with women. Made, intoxication. Tava, your. Translation. I think somebody's just on. Okay, I just muted somebody. Translation: In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your four legs were established by the four principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. It appears that three of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The deluding energy of mature nature can act upon the living beings proportionately in terms of the living beings falling prey to the deluding attraction of Maya. Moths are captivated by the glaring brightness of light, and thus they become prey to the fire. Similarly, the deluding energy is always captivating the conditioned souls to become prey to the fire of delusion. And the Vedic scriptures warn the conditioned souls not to become prey to delusion, but to get rid of it. The Vedas warn us to not get to the darkness of ignorance, but to the progressive path of light. The Lord himself also warns that the deluding power, material energy, is too powerful to overcome, but one who completely surrenders unto the Lord can easily do so. But to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is also not very easy. Such surrender is possible by persons of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. These four principles of advanced civilization were remarkable features in the age of Satya. In that age, every human being was practically a qualified Brahmana of the highest order, and in the social orders of life, they were all Paramahamsas, or the topmost in the renounced order. By cultural standing, the human beings were not at all subjected to the deluding energy. Such strong men of character were competent enough to get away from the clutches of Maya. But gradually, as the basic principles of Brahminical culture, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, became curtailed by proportionate development of pride, attachment for women, and intoxication, the path of salvation or the path of transcendental bliss retreated far, far away from the human society. With the progression of the age of Kali, people are becoming very proud and attached to women and intoxication. By the influence of the age of Kali, even a pauper is proud of his penny. The women are always dressed in an overly attractive fashion to victimize the minds of men. And the man is addicted to drinking, wine, smoking, drinking, tea, and chewing tobacco, etc. All these habits are so-called advancement of civilization, are the root causes of all irreligiosities, and therefore it is not possible to check corruption, bribery, and nepotism. Man cannot check all these evils simply by statutory acts and police vigilance, but he can cure the disease of the mind by the proper medicine, namely advocating the principles of Brahminical culture or the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Modern civilization and economic development are creating a new situation of poverty and scarcity, the result of blackmailing the consumer's commodities. The leaders and the rich men of society spend 50% of their accumulated wealth mercifully for the misled mass of people and educate them in God consciousness that knowledge of Bhagavatam, certainly the age of Kali, will be defeated in its attempt to entrap their conditioned souls. We must always remember that false pride or too high an estimation of one's own value of life, undue attachment to women or association with them, and intoxication will divert human civilization from the path of peace. However much the people clamor for peace in the world, the preaching of the Bhagavatam principles will automatically render all men austere, clean both inside and outside, merciful to the suffering, and truthful in daily behavior. That is the way of correcting the flaws of human society, which are very prominently exhibited at the present moment. So the translation once again is, in the age of Satya, truthfulness, your phalanx were established by the four principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that three of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. So recite the invocation prayers. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Mulitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I offer my obeisances, first of all, to my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Swami, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Swami Tiramane, and to Jagat Guru ISKCON BBT Founder Church, Srila Prabhupada, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane, Namaste Saraswati Devam, Gauravani Pachayane, Nirvishesa Sanyavadi, Paschatya Desatarine. Kindly ask their blessings so I can speak on the wonderful topics of the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and also the blessings of all the listeners as well. I have to apologize as well because I was actually doing service today in preparations for Janmashtami, so do forgive me if the class is not as expected as to the other Vaishnavas who normally give class. It's also my own fault. I should have prepared as well. So, but this is going back to the story of Dharmaraj's 3 legs been chopped up by the rogue Kali. The 4 legs that represent austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Now, for each, as they were actually established during the age of Satya Yuga, truthfulness, every yuga, one particular quality, good quality of mankind diminishes. So at the moment, 3 of the qualities have been diminished. That is austerity, cleanliness, and mercy. And Srila Prabhupada has specifically given us the way to actually focus ourselves back to becoming to Krishna consciousness by following certain 4 regulated principles. Now, does anybody know what the 4 regulated principles represent, each of these particular qualities in each of the yuga? So we have, first of all, we have austerity. So austerity is normally referred to no intoxication. When we have no intoxication, that also includes no drinking tea, no coffee, no drugs or anything of any drug form at all. And that is actually to allow us to develop a pure consciousness. As you know, we can see in the news every day that people are taking drugs, taking some unnecessary intoxicants, are becoming very degraded. If you look at the situation in America right now, many people are pumping in some zombie drug right now, and it's causing them to completely have their body turn into zombies, almost like they're just like bending 90 degrees from their waist downwards, and they're just falling over when they try and walk. They just have no sort of perception of anything around them. Their surrounding, their consciousness is completely degraded. And this is becoming quite a big thing, big phenomenon in America right now. Many people are just completely taken to this zombie drug, and it's causing them so much hellish conditions for all the people living around in these certain areas in the neighborhood, because they're seeing this line of homeless people all completely, drugged down. And now Srila Prabhupada has been so merciful that even if you don't take up the Krishna consciousness, even if you don't believe into God, the qualities of developing a pure consciousness is to refrain yourself from these certain bad habits. As I mentioned further on, that Maya is very strong and it attracts you in a certain way to sort of become attached to the mundane material life. And because you become attached to this material life, it is very temporary and you become frustrated. And then that happiness that you experienced at the beginning, it completely diminishes. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita mentions, something which is very bitter at the beginning, it's like, or like poison at the beginning, it's like nectar at the end. But something which is like nectar becomes like poison at the end. So a lot of these people who are taking these certain drugs and intoxicants, they become very, very happy, blissful, and eventually they realize that it's actually damaging the body, the mind, the intelligence. And Prabhupada actually came at a time when the use of drug was actually quite prominent, quite prevailing. It was actually, to a certain degree, it was actually legalized as well, LSD, sorry, not LCD, LSD. And one of the persons who was actually one of the founder of this particular LSD, Timothy Leary, he also had other members within the universities, companions, who somehow or another became Krishna consciousness. One of the person who was actually an associate of Timothy Leary was actually Jayatitha Prabhu, and he actually became one of the 11 acharyas that was nominated by Srila Prabhupada when he left the planet. But unfortunately, there's another story to his life as well. But it just shows you that those people who are taking this LSD, that Srila Prabhupada was able to transform them. They didn't need to go to any clinics or anything, any sort of counseling, any sort of special, how do you call it, staff to actually take care of these people who are taking all this LSD. By Prabhupada encouraging them in Krishna consciousness, by giving them prasadam, by having the association of a pure devotee, they become totally transformed. And during that time, during the hippie movement, people went to all sorts of intoxicants, taking marijuana, taking drugs. But somehow Prabhupada's purity transformed them by the actual weapon of spiritual knowledge. That's why it's called the secret of all knowledges, because when one takes it very seriously and one adapts to the actual the actions or the actual, how would you say it? If actually follows the instructions of the scriptures, then one is actually guaranteed to come to Krishna's lotus feet. As all who surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, Asana Peter. And that's what Krishna says to Arjuna. As all who surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. And then one time, Mahatma Prabhu actually wrote a beautiful poem, and in that poem, he actually comes to a point where he's actually in Golok Gadam, after his material life. He sees all these different personalities in the spiritual world. Hey, how did I see this person? He was such a kind of character. And he goes on in his poem, this is, and he's so surprised to see all these different people who had actually attained Golokadam. So in other words, Krishna was so merciful that even though they may have some faults, but they actually came into the spiritual world. But then all of a sudden, all the people that he actually met, they also were very surprised to see him in the spiritual world as well. Of course, this is all a poem. But the moral of the story is that, so Krishna is so merciful, the spiritual master is so merciful, that there may be sometimes a mistake that we make in our life. And we may not be completely 100%, but the more you endeavor, the more you sort of associate with the devotees, the more you sort of do some devotional service, as mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, the more you develop attraction for Radha Krishna and his devotees. And of course, Krishna is more pleased when you serve his devotees. There's no one more dear to me than he. One who actually surrenders or serves his devotees are more dear to Krishna himself. So the other one, that was austerity, non-intoxication. Then the other one was mercy. So in mercy, it's actually no meat eating. So fortunately, many of us have been born in sort of Hindu families. We've already been taught by our own parents, our grandparents, that we were brought up in a vegetarian diet. We were healthy. But many of us who came to the Western world, who came from Kenya, from India, suddenly a lot of them actually changed into their habits of following the regulation of vegetarianism into becoming meat eaters. And I know many of my friends at school, many of them took up to meat eating, and it's sad because we were skinny when we came to this country, no doubt about it. And the doctors and the social workers were saying, "Oh, you must eat meat to keep your children strong and steady." And it's so sad that to see a lot of my Hindu friends, who are actually from India or Africa, started taking up meat eating. But now, many of the Westerners have been taken up to vegetarianism, and especially veganism is quite a big thing. Now, it may not necessarily be from a spiritual perspective, but even the fact that they're actually understanding the importance about killing an animal is also there's a karmic reaction. Just like if you kill an animal, if you kill a cow, how many hairs there are on the body of that cow, that's how many times you'll have to come back to this material world to suffer again and again. So at least they're avoiding taking this meat eating. So in this case, mercy, Prabhupada has given the four sort of regulated principles: no meat eating and no intoxication. Now, the third one is actually cleanliness. So it actually mentions down here the cleanliness, the four regulated principles associated with cleanliness is no illicit sex. And in this particular verse, it actually mentions about we have this lust for women. And in the early days of ISKCON, Prabhupada Swami, when he was actually attending a university or going to certain university programs, one of the lecturers mentioned about that the whole world is based on attraction to the opposite sex. It's based on sex. And then he was a bit confused and he asked Prabhupada, this is what I heard from the university lecturer. Prabhupada actually agreed, yes, attraction, the whole world is based on sexual attraction. And it's certain things that we don't always talk about all the time because sometimes we find uncomfortable, sometimes embarrassing, even talking about the time of the month for a lady. Sometimes it's a bit of a taboo within our own sort of Hindu group or within our own society. We don't always open up to certain things. I know at work nowadays, they open up to so many things, to so many groups about these kind of things. But importantly, the topic which I'm mentioning was about the lust for women. It's actually mentioned while contemplating on the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger arises. From anger, there is complete delusion. When there's delusion, there's bewilderment of the memory. And when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. Once intelligence is lost, one again falls down into this material pool. So this cycle of attachment to something which is attractive to us, we are attracted to, it becomes like a burden in the long run. While contemplating on the senses, our senses, the mind, the ears, the eyes, the nose, everything about a certain object we get attracted to. But in this case, it's the form of a woman we become very attracted to. And that's why it is very important. It mentions that we should not become proud if we have a beautiful wife. We should be proud of by associating too loosely with women as well. We should certainly know how to respect them, treat them like if they were a sister or a mother, grandmother, auntie, or stepmother, or even her mother-in-law as well. And it's important because otherwise what happens, that attraction actually confuses the mind, it bewilders the mind, it deludes the mind, it prevents you from progressing your spiritual journey because you're coming to the temple for the wrong reason, you're sort of coming to programs for the wrong reason, you're wanting to do some service because some particular attractive girl is there. It's quite natural, but importantly, when you do find somebody that you're attracted to, but at least try and do it in a way that is spiritually inclined, where you don't dishonor her or dishonor yourself, dishonor their family. I think nowadays, even before when we were in Krishna consciousness, I remember one time when we were in a youth group, we used to have summer camps in the Bhaktivedanta Manor at the temple. This is going back in the 80s. and there was like a boys' summer camp one week and a girls' summer camp another week, and sometimes there was a few days that may have overlapped itself. And then, I was one of the, as they used to call it, the head boy for one of the boys' group. But it so happened a girl from the girls' group came to our camp in the boys' camp, and then the senior devotees found out about it, and we got reprimanded. We're saying, "What are you doing? Why are you letting this girl come in to the boys' camp?" Obviously, we didn't invite her, but she came by herself. Of course, nothing happened. We were just young children, like from 12 till 16 years old. But the important point is that you have to have certain discipline. You have the men on one side, the women on the other side. Women, when they should cover themselves with a sari on their head as well when they come near senior devotees. I know His Holiness Shiv Mahavishnu Maharaj, the Indian spiritual master, he passed away sadly many years ago. But he was very avid follower of this condition, this very system, this respect about the respect for boys and the girls, keeping that separate identity is very important. And that's to develop that honor and that pride for not only the women, for the women's family as well. So that was mercy in terms of cleanliness in terms of like no illicit sex. So the idea is that when you have children for the procreation, when you have sex, it's meant for procreation for children. And that idea is to have the children raised in Krishna consciousness. It's a topic, very deep topic, which I'm not really expert at, but certainly there are devotees like Mahama Prabhu, who does wonderful seminars on married life, how to develop a good relationship, good spiritual relationship. Unfortunately, we do have ups and downs in every family. And it's important that if you take the spiritual life, you also take that advice from senior devotees who's been through the married life for many years, and they could give nice spiritual support to each individual couples. So, going on from this particular topic, so the final one is, of course, truthfulness. So in this case, truthfulness is represented by non-gambling. So when Prabhupada gives the 4 rules and regulations, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication. The 4th one is no gambling. And the last leg, which the Maharaj is standing on, is the leg of truthfulness, satya. That was in the age of satya, although that's got truthfulness, but also in Kali Yuga, that's the actual quality that is still prevalent in this Kali Yuga. And at the moment, you can actually see that there is a justice system, there is a legal system, there's a government system. There may be corrupt government, but also at the same time, there is a system, a law system, where certain activities that may take place, then you go through the legal channel, and then, any criminals or any misjustice to society, any wrongdoings by anybody, they're generally punished by the government accordingly by either put into prison or community services. So there is some sort of legal system in this particular age, which we can actually depend on. Of course, some of that legal society is always twisted by certain rules and regulations within within the society, how it's run. Sometimes you actually hear certain people who have committed a hideous crime, but they managed to get away because there's some points that were sort of not recognized within the legal system itself. At the moment, you can see how devastating the world is, how people are becoming so, degraded. You see that girl, she looks so innocent, Lucy Letby, but she actually killed some 15 or 9 children and tried to murder 7 other children. And you really, really depend on this hospitals, these nurses to take care of your loved ones. But who knows who's out there in this material world who can really be honest and truthful to say that they're actually protecting the society. We can't trust anybody at all. That's why we have to completely depend on Krishna. So I do know that many devotees who have gone through so much difficulties in their lifetime, if they've lost loved ones. Recently, we went to Inishrath And the devotee, head Pujari there, she's such a wonderful devotee. She's the sister of Parashuram Prabhu. Name is Mahamantra Mataji. But she was so focused, in her dedication to Radha Govinda, who are the presiding deities in Innisrath, which is an island in Northern Ireland. It's about 2 hours drive from Belfast or even Dublin. But she's so dedicated. In the morning, she'd wake up the deities. She'd arrange for the dressing of the deities. You have beautiful Radha Krishna deities, Radha Govinda. You have Chota Radha Krishna. You have Chota Gaunitai. Because there's not many devotees in the temple, she practically dresses both the Chota Radha Krishna and Gaunitai and large Radha Krishna. And then she cooks for the deities. She does arti for the deities. She does all the dresses for the deities. She even inherited quite a substantial amount of money from her mother who passed away. But her own house, her own little tiny cottage was dilapidated. There was leaks in the roofs and everything needed to be completely refurbished. But she used every penny, not for herself, but she used it to actually refurbish the temple room, refurbish the Pujari room, extend it so that all the dresses of Gaunitai are actually kept nicely, of Radha Krishna and Radha Govinda are kept nicely. Now you may think, why am I saying this? Well, the reason why I'm saying this is because, as I mentioned, that Maya is very strong and it can actually take away even a mind who's controlling this mind, mind of discrimination, as I mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. But this lady actually sadly lost her child at 2.5 years old. She was, unfortunately, she was devastated. She completely lost her life, her soul. Of course, there's no other greater pain for a mother than losing her child, tender child, And she was so devastated, and she didn't know what to do. Of course, things were looking down for her, but then Shiva Maharaj told us, look, you've got to dedicate yourself to serving Radha and Krishna. And Prithu Prabhu, who is the GBC for Ireland, he also mentioned, we can support you, take care of them, serve your needs. And because although she went through that difficulty and she lost her child, she's completely surrendered herself unto Krishna. Now, on the other hand, there are devotees who have actually lost lives, lost their families. And unfortunately, because they don't have strength and devotion into Krishna, they completely lose faith in Krishna. Mahamantra Mataji, if you ever get a chance to meet her, just like Parashuram Prabhu, is so dedicated, they're so fixed up in their service, they're completely surrendered unto serving Krishna. They don't really have any desire for any prestige, any name, fame, adoration. Even if you look at Parashuram Prabhu, it's not exactly his notice that got is torn, so forth. But he goes to Ukraine, despite all the bombings. He actually told us just recently, while he was driving along, there was a bomb on one side and a bomb on the other side, and it completely caused the van that they were driving to go from side to side, rock side to side. They were really devastated, but all they could do is just carry on driving and driving to the point of their destination. And there he was cooking prasadam. So these are the qualities of the Paramahamsas. These 4 principles of advanced civilizations were remarkable features in the age of Satya. That age, every human being was practically a qualified Brahmana by their highest order. And in social orders of life, there were Paramahamsas, or the topmost in the renounced order. So even though it mentions that in Satya Yuga, at the age of truthfulness, there were Paramahamsas, even nowadays you can actually find Paramahamsas who completely dedicate themselves in serving Krishna wholeheartedly. Further along, it does mention about the influence of age of Kali. We become very proud of ourselves. We become proud of what we have achieved. I don't know if you know, but most of you, when you first came to the UK, if you came from abroad, you realized how fortunate you are, even though you couldn't compare yourself to a rich person, but you are happy that whatever your mother gave me, you may have been living in like 6, 7 people in one room, like what we did. We had old clothes or passed from siblings, from one child to another child. But the fact that the love of our mother and the father, of course, was always there to protect us. But that spiritual perspective actually allowed us to understand that you shouldn't be proud of what you've got. You should be happy with what you've got. You shouldn't waste prashadam, even like to the point of not wasting energy as well. Keeping yourself clean, keeping yourself tidy, your bedding and everything. So these are the qualities that should be there. But unfortunately, in this age of Kali, it does mention that people become very proud of themselves. Like even a pauper is very proud of a penny. People are addicted to drinking and whining and smoking, drinking tea, chewing tobacco. I know one particular person, they're going to be initiated by a spiritual master. But that particular devotee had so much attachment for tea and found it very difficult to let go. So unfortunately, she had to convey this back to the authorities, and the authorities said, well, if you're not ready to give up tea, then sadly you cannot take initiation. So it just shows you that there is attraction in everything that surrounds us, and especially nowadays with the phenomenon of social media, we get so attached to it on YouTube. You know, sometimes you want to look up something on YouTube. Before you know it, you look at one sort of video, then it goes to another video, and you think, hang on a minute, what's going on? Watch 25 videos which have no sort of purpose in life for me. And then you think, what a waste of time. I could have been reading something or done some chanting extra. But what it is, there's attraction that causes our mind to sort of be drawn into these kind of activities that don't really have any value in our life. But if you go to the temple, like today, when we were doing sweet packing at the temple, I was just observing how many people there were. The majority of the devotees who were there, a lot of elderly people. Now, is it because the elderly people have got nothing else to do? Or is it because they just want to pass their time or just want to be in a social life? But actually, when you see the mood of them, they were so concentrating on their seva. They were so concentrated in serving Krishna by packing these samosas, by packing these sweets for the benefit of all those who come to visit Bhaktivedanta Manor. And that is the mood that we shall have. You know, although at a young age, we want to travel around, we want to do so many things, we want to experiment, but just keeping the association of the devotees is so important. And by doing that, it keeps the age of Kali to the age of Satya Yuga for all of us. Okay, and the last phrase which Srila Prabhupada mentioned so nicely, the preaching of the Bhagavatam principles will automatically render all men austere. So austerity, mercy, and cleanliness are so important, not only to be clean, both in the inside and the outside. Many of you may have heard that verse, Om Pavitra Pavitra Va Sarvam Kusto Piva Smaram Pudarikaksham Smaraya something, the last verse, the last word I've forgotten. But basically it mentions that whether one's pure or impure, whether one's impure inside or outside, but if they're thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it always remains very pure. And that is our duty, to always remain pure. Let me just see if I could find that verse for you. It's a very beautiful verse. Unless, Salish Prabhu, do you know the verse off by heart? Okay, here it is. This may not be the exact word-for-word translation that we use. Om apavitra pavitra va sava avastam kutopi va yaspare pundarikaksham sabaya payatara suchihi. Om, if one is a pavitra, pure, or pavitra, pure, or even in all other conditions, he who remembers Pundarikaksha, another name of Sri Vishnu, literally meaning the lotus-like eyes, he becomes pure outwardly as well as inwardly. So such a beautiful verse this is. Normally this is a verse that we recite in the morning when we do the deity service. It's allowing us to purify ourselves both externally and internally by always remembering Pundarikaksha, which is Sri Vishnu, the lotus-like eyes. It becomes pure outwardly and inwardly. So, is there any questions or comments? I don't know if there's any kirtans today at all.
Yes, Prabhuji, there is bhajan today. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, sure. If there's no more comments or questions or corrections, then we can start with the bhajan.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for sharing. So, Prabhuji, we have today Orpita, who will be doing recitation, and we have Mamta Mataji singing the bhajan. Thank you, Orpita, when you're ready.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Translation. O pleaser of the cows, O protector of cows, O bearer of the finest hair, O husband of the goddess of fortune, you are very merciful to the fallen souls. O, you are supremely merciful, O Lord, supremely merciful, O Keshava, O Madhava, O Dina Doya, wearing bright yellow garments and a peacock feather upon your crown. You play the flute and make it sing the name of Radha. Hare Krishna, I wasn't done. Thank you. You are the coward boy that gives great delight. O Lord, the coward boy that gives great delight. O Keshava, O Madhava, O Dina Doya. You take away our fear of being trapped on the wheel of repeated birth and death in the material world. And you are the splendorous killer of the demon mother, the destroyer of all tribulations. You are the supreme resting place for all souls. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. This is a song written by Jayadeva Goswami. I'll try my best to sing. It's Hey Govinda, Hey Gopala. Hey Hey Govinda, Hey Gopal, Keshava Madhava Dina Daya. Hey Govinda, Hey Gopal, Keshava Madhava Dina Daya. Hey Govinda, Hey Gopal, Keshava Madhava Dina Daya. Tumi Parama Daya. Tumi Parama Dayal Prabhu, Parama Dayal, Keshava Madhava Dina Dayal. Hey Govinda, Hey Gopal, Keshava Madhava Dina Dayal. Vitabasana pari mayurer shikha dhari murali rabani tule bole radhana. Vitabasana pari mayurer shikha dhari murali rabani tule bole radhana. Tumi Madhura Gopal, Madhura Gopal, Tumi Madhura Gopal, Prabhu, Madhura Gopal, केशव माधव दीन दयाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल केशव माधव दीन दयाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल केशव माधव दीन दयाल भव भय भंजन श्री मधुसूदन विपद भंजन तुम्ही नारायण भव भय भंजन श्री मधुसूदन विपद भंजन तुम्ही नारायण तुम्ही परम दया केशव माधव दीन दयाल तुम्ही मधुर केशव माधव दयाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल केशव माधव दीन दयाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल केशव माधव दीन दयाल हे गोविंद हे गोपाल केशव माधव दीन दयाल केशव माधव दीन दयाल केशव माधव दीन Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Is that Mamta Mataji? And
Yes,
Orpita?
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, singing so nicely, as always. And it's such a beautiful song that is, because when we were children, we used to sing that. And
Oh.
it's not a song which is normally heard, but it is a very nice song as well. Really nice. Thank you very much. And thank you, Orpita, for the translation as well.
Thank you.
So if there's nothing else, we do look forward to all of you for Janmashtami. Anybody coming for Janmashtami? Raise your hands or give a reaction. Like a thumbs up.
Prabhuji Hare Krishna. My humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I just can't get the tickets for Sunday, Prabhuji. I'm like looking at it every single day.
Is it really? For Sunday, what time were you thinking of?
Prabhuji, I was thinking between 12 and 12:30.
Okay, sure. So what I'll do, Mataji, I'll have a word with Yogi, because sometimes what they do, they release further tickets as time progresses, because obviously they don't want everybody rushing and crashing the system. Most of you probably tried and found that it was very, very sticky, the internet, trying to book a ticket.
Yes,
But
Prabhuji.
I'll find out. If you do keep trying, and I'm sure they
Prabhuji.
will actually find out. And then if I send a message to the group, at least the chat group, then at least you're aware of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That will be very helpful. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please say some humble obeisances, and please forgive me for any mistakes. And once again, I do forgive me. I have to honestly say that I was at the temple all day preparing the Janmashtami sweets, and literally I just came 5 minutes before I was supposed to speak, so I didn't prepare myself. It's not really the best etiquette, because we should really prepare ourselves and know what we're talking about before trying to babble on. Hopefully I'll be more responsible and reliable next time. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Panchakalpatarvishya kripa sindhubhyacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Bhagavatam ki jai.
Yay.
Hey. Thank you,
Thank you so
Prabhuji.
much, Prabhuji, for the
Thank
beautiful
you.
dance.
Hare